kwenye camps kama hizi kufanya.
Well, from Matters Healthcare, we want to talk about logistics. Well, this is all about the standard gauge railway. Of course, the last few weeks, we've seen a number of protests happening in Mombasa. This followed the government's directive when they had proposed that all cargo must be ferried by the standard gauge, which was later changed, and the government has now put it to be optional. Well, I now want to bring in an expert in that field, and of course, someone who is also able to articulate matters to do with logistics. I'm now joined by Ron Okello. Thank you for making time for us.
Thank you for having me, Abby. Thank you.
And you come from a company that is already in the transport business. Perhaps let's just begin by getting a sense of understanding. What does this back and forth on moving cargo via trucks or via SGR, which solution will we get at the end of the day that will be cost effective and competitive?
Okay, that's a really deep question, because it's a sort of a catch-22 right there. The SGR came about as a cost of lowering the cost of moving goods within East Africa, which is ridiculously about 70% of every commodity that you purchase. 70% of that cost is actually logistics, compared to 6% in developed markets like the United States. Now, as Lorry, we also are built and we share the same vision in terms of lowering the cost of goods, which is ideally why the SGR came up. Now, the direct costs on the SGR in the first look may seem that they're quite competitive, extremely competitive. However, the second part of the conversation comes about when we discuss about efficiency. So how efficient is it to use the SGR versus how efficient is it to use a truck? Now, the old way of moving cargo, especially from the port, was you get a truck, you load the truck with your container, then after that you bring the truck up to Nairobi.
Sure.
Now the SGR is faster on the, let me call it the first part of the last mile. And then after that it comes to the inland container depot, which now has to get the container out of there from the Embakasi Inland Container Depot inland. Now there is where now the conversation may change a little bit, because by speaking to cargo owners, the inefficiencies that come with delays and planning and everything else may cause a bit of a challenge. While also on the trucking side, maybe if you're blindsided in terms of you don't know where your cargo is, that may also cause a challenge. So it depends on how you look at it, versus direct costs versus the inefficiencies that are coupled with the move, which is what Lorry is in the market to solve right now.
Interesting.
Yes.
And before we get deeper into Lorry and what solution you provide in the market,
yes,
I just want to understand, if I move cargo today via SGR,
okay,
how much will it cost me? And if I move it by road, assuming my cargo is coming to, let's say, Cabanas.
Yes.
That's my final destination.
Okay. Direct costs, I'd say clearing at the port is generally the same. So say give a cost of X for clearing, both ways. So that's fine. If you're bringing it up by road, you look at anything between 70,000 to 80,000 shillings. The SGR may be slightly cheaper, because you look at about maybe 40 to 50. And then there's a clearing and storage handling, which is about $15 or so per day for handling the container. So directly, if you're working with the assumption that immediately your container arrives at the inland container depot in Mombasa, then it's natural that another truck will pick it from there and drop it for you across the road. Say you're within the industrial area zone of Nairobi, then that makes sense. But the challenge is it's never that direct, because first of all, the train is ferrying hundreds of containers. There's multiple trains in a day. Then there's the logistical part of handling the containers. So how are the containers stacked? Which lot is your container? How fast can your clearing agent access it? The equipment for loading the containers onto the truck, are they functional? So those are some of the delays that probably would have your container, the inland container depot, for maybe about 2, 3, 4 more days.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm sure the government is working really hard to streamline that process, and we're partnering with both stakeholders, cargo owners, transporters, and the government to streamline all of that. And
as we wrap up, of course, as much as the matter is still active, where we are seeing a lot of discussions happening both ends.
Yes.
As Lorry Logistics, what has been the uptake of your product in the market now that there's a renewed sense of the cargo business in Kenya?
The uptake has been quite fantastic. I mean, we've been in the market for 2 years now, and we're looking at approximately over 6,000 trucks just within the East African corridor. And that reception has been well received also in Nigeria, where we've launched in Ghana and in Lagos in Nigeria. So the uptake within the East and the West African market has been amazing, and we're looking forward to growing this across the African continent. So if we have the SGR versus the truck, that's the conversation we're having today.
Okay.
Now, we have been nurtured to understand that the origin of the cargo is Mombasa. But what Lori is doing in terms of disrupting the space with technology is that we're changing the origin to be wherever it is you want the origin to be. Okay. So we should slowly move away from the mindset that the origin has to be the port of Mombasa, because we have origin in Mombasa, in Nairobi, in Kampala, across East Africa. Right. So we just have to increase, what we're doing is we're increasing truck utilization across the East African market from whichever origin the cargo comes from.
Great.
Yes.
Wishing you the very best, and we hope this stalemate will eventually be solved.
Thank you.